Well, hi. I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. I have a Facebook group called Roberta's Creative Stampers that I tried to go live on a few minutes ago, and Facebook was not allowing it. I tried on my phone, I tried on my iPad, and I tried on the computer. And then just for the heck of it, I went to another group that I administer that is really just sort of a try things out kind of a group. So I'm the only member of the group and the only one who can see anything in the group. Excuse me, I'm just going to play with my lighting here a little bit. Oh, that's a little bit better. Anyway, I tried that and it let me in that group. So I don't know if I've done something that's offended the Facebook gods or what the issue is, but I can't seem to get on Facebook in the other, or get live on the other group. So I'm going to do this in this group. It will record while I'm doing the live, and then I will have to transfer it to the other group, which isn't easy because this is like a secret group, and so you're not supposed to be able to transfer from one group to the other. I don't know who makes up all these rules, but it sure isn't me. Anyway, so I am going to put the camera down. As you know, I did some what I'd call Scrapbuster videos, or I did a Scrapbuster video on, I believe it was Saturday. I don't know, the days are just all kind of blurring into one another. So I'm going to do another Scrapbuster video, and I'll get the camera down and we'll get right on going. And I know I'm talking to myself right now, but hey, whatever, I do that all the time anyway. So all right, hold on, make a couple of adjustments. Make sure that I'm not upside down and that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. And there we go. And then I'll just refresh my computer, which I didn't do, so that I can see what you're seeing if I'm lucky. All right. There we go. I can see things, you can see things. Life should be good. I'm gonna make a couple more little adjustments here. Oh, I just never know why sometimes things are straight and sometimes they're all cockeyed. All right, we'll slide that up a tad and we should be ready to get going. Okay, so the other day I used a bunch of things from the Paper Pattern Party Pack. Wow. And today I am going to use some of that again just because I really do like it. But I also had a bunch of scraps building up in my collection of the 6x6 Designer Series paper that is associated with each of our color families. So I got out the Brights and I pulled out some colors from that. I also got out the Banner Pick-a-Punch, which again technically doesn't go live again until the new catalog goes live, which will be happening soon. And this was carried over from the holiday catalog. And it's a really, really neat punch, does a lot of things. It allows you to punch a banner that looks like that type, or a banner that has sort of, I guess you might call it a bullet tip, and it allows you to make banners in 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 1 inch widths. So that's where I decided to start. And I kind of recalled a project that I used to do quite a bit with my students. And I'm sure if you had kids in school at some point, or if you were kids yourself, which we all were, you might remember making like woven placemats out of construction paper. And I sort of remembered that project, and I remember that sometimes it went very well and sometimes it was a bit of a nightmare. And one of the things that we used to do to keep it from being a nightmare is that we would usually take masking tape and we would tape the ends of the paper down, the paper strips down, across the base of the mat and on the table, let's say. And then when we were done, we would just rip it all up and we would cut across. But because I wanted to use the banner tips, I really couldn't do that. I cut out, these are 1/2 inch strips, 2 in each color. So we have Gorgeous Grape, Granny Apple Green, Poppy Parade, and Pool Party, I believe. No, that doesn't sound right. Not Pool Party, Coastal Cabana, okay, or Bermuda Bay, one of those two. And these are two-sided papers, so I wanted to make sure that I am using one of each side so that they're not all identical patterns. And then I thought, how can I mimic that thing of taping it down to keep it from making you crazy without having to tear it or worrying about these getting torn. So what I came up with, for what it's worth, and this has to do with the fact that nothing will stick to the silicone mat, as I've told you before. If nothing will stick to the silicone mat, and I really do know that to be true, then I think that what I can do is put a little dab of glue. Whoops, that's more than a little dab. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow some of that, let's see, borrow some of that glue. All right, and I'm going to stick it down to the mat. My goal here is that the papers won't wiggle and waggle all over the place. They'll sort of stay put, but yet I'll be able to lift them up and put them where I want to put them when I'm done. That's my goal. We'll see if that happens or not. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just putting a little bit of glue on one end because I need to be able to slide these in to weave them, if you remember how that's done. And what I'm going to do when I'm done is to get that woven whatever I'm making onto my card mat. I feel like I'm just not speaking English today. Okay, so my card itself is 5.5 by 4 1/4. So my mat is 5 1/4 by 4. So I cut these strips at 4 3/4 inches long, and then use the banana punch on them. And I cut these at 3.5 maybe. Everything went down, about 1/4 inch. Let's put it that way. All right, so the longer ones obviously will be facing up. So all we're doing, and now I'm using the reverse side of this one, is we're going to do that over, under thing. So I'm going to slide that in there, and they're going to fidget a little bit. With any luck, they won't go all over the place. All right, so I went over the purple, under the Granny Apple Green, over the Poppy Parade, and now I'm going under the Bermuda Bay, or whichever color this is. And then for the next one, we're going to do the exact opposite. So I'm using the flip side of that one. Because I went over on the first one, I'm going to go under the next time. I can't imagine there's a kid alive who hasn't done this at some point in school, or even with parents or whatever. Okay, so we just keep doing the opposite of whatever we started doing. So again, flip side of that, I went over, then I went under, so now I'm going over the first one, and then under, and then over, and then under. It's really pretty easy once you get the hang of it. All right, using the flip side of that one, I went over there, so I'm going under, and then over, and then under, and then over. Yeah, it's easy right up until you mess it up. Okay, so now my thought is that I can slide this right under, and it does look like I got the sizing right, and I'll still have a little bit of ability to wiggle these around, but then I'm thinking getting glue under them is going to be a little tricky, but I don't have to get glue under every single one of them in every spot. I think I just need to get enough glue to kind of hold things down a little bit. I don't know, we'll see, because I've never done this way before. And just for the record, I did not do a trial run of this, because, why would I, right? Well, that's not true. I did do a trial run without gluing it down, and that didn't go well, and that told me I needed to do something different. At least I thought I did. Maybe you will look at me and say, she's going to way too much trouble there. What the heck is she doing? So my thought is I'm going to just keep sliding it. So remember, there's not glue any place but right there at the bottom of those 4. So I may have a problem here, because getting them up, even though the glue isn't stuck to these, getting this under, yeah, okay, sort of, but not exactly. Let's get that out of the way. Yeah, I may have made a little bit more trouble for myself than I needed to make, but, and now I have some glue on my thumb, so that's going to stick to everything. Yeah, it may be that that step was not necessary, or that it just didn't help enough to make it worth the effort, but we'll see. At least I've got the over, under thing accomplished, I think. Okay, so I think just to kind of keep things held down. The other thing is that I didn't necessarily, no, I lied. I'm thinking about the next card. I was going to say I didn't necessarily want them all lined up, but I do. Okay, so okay, so we've got one where it needs to be. I think if I work on these vertical ones first, as long as I get the spacing right, then the other will just kind of fall into place. She says, hopefully. Okay. Yep, might not have had enough glue on that one, or I just didn't give it enough time. Okay. Looks like my spacing's pretty even, and how I feel about perfection, it really doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm sure part of the reason I keep saying that is because it never is, and that way it just seems like I don't care, but I really don't within reason. There are certain things that will bother me and certain things that won't. Okay, so I've got the tops of these all glued down. So with any luck, they're not going anywhere anymore. Then I just need to figure out the spacing of these because I don't want them crazy off. So we've got, looks pretty even there. So if I just hold that down and just lift that up gently and make a little line there, that was a little too much glue. A little too much, okay. Then I can put that down there. Okay, let's see. Just roll that off my hand. And then, all right, you know, I'm going to work one side at a time here. Just going to make sure that I still have my over-under where I want it. Okay, now this one's a little trickier because it's under, so I just have to be a little bit more gentle in lifting that up. Okay. And you are the ones with the bird's eye view, so you can tell if this is straight probably better than I can from my angle, but oh, now look at that. That one, this one should be going over, so somehow that slipped. And then this one should be going under this one. Okay, so we do want to check and make sure things haven't slipped out of place somehow while you're messing around with that. I'm going to grab my take your pick tool just so I can lift this up, there we go, and get that to go over. So we've got under, over, under, over, over, under, over, under, under, over, under, over. Okay. And I'm purposely going across this kind of crossbar of the Bermuda Bay just as another way of making sure that this is stuck down pretty good where I want it to be. Okay, and now this one is over, under, and that's right. So I'm going to lift that up a little bit and get a little dot of that under there. Okay, now I'm just going to flip this upside down because there really is no top or bottom to it that makes any sense. All right, and these two are a little too close together. I might be able to zhuzh that a little bit, and if I can't, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Okay, so now I'm going to lift this up and get that down. I just keep coming out just a tad too far. I do love this glue though, because you just roll it off your fingers and it's all good. Okay, and a little dot under there. Whoops. All right, let's hold that one down for a second or two. And then the other thing that you can do if you feel like you need to, well, I'll get to it in a minute and I'll show you. I think you've seen me do it before. All right, we'll get that down. And then the last one here. Okay, so it's glued at all of the ends and a little bit on the top where the ones go over here and over here. And if I truly felt that I wanted to get more glue under some other spots, what I do when I've missed a spot, let's say when I'm gluing something, is I just take a little scrap of cardstock or whatever I've got, stick it under, give it a little wiggle, and then pull it out. And that's just another way of getting a spot that you missed or getting a spot that you really couldn't get at when you wanted to. Just push down on it and pull it out, and it leaves the glue behind where you want it. Okay, I don't know that that's necessary because I think the ends are down pretty good, but if you're worried about it, that's the solution to that problem. Okay, so then I'm just going to take this now and put it on my Poppy Parade card base. I think my trimmer blade, oh no, that's glue. I was going to say I think my trimmer blade needs sharpening, but that's just some glue I've got stuck there where it doesn't belong. Okay, I've always got my handy glue eraser nearby. There we go. Okay. So there's that one. And I am going to get to a sentiment in a couple of minutes. But before I do, I want to go ahead and just keep going and do the other card. So the other card is using the pattern parade paper, and I have a basic white card base, 5.5 by 4.25, just the typical size. And crushed curry is one of the colors that is appearing in most of this paper here. So I picked crushed curry as my mat. Okay, and I have a scrap of basic white here, and I'll get to what that's for in just a couple of minutes. Ouch. So I also used the Pick a Banner punch for this, only in this case I have 2 of some of the patterns, 1 of some of the patterns, and they were different lengths because my scraps were different lengths, but I found scraps that were all wide enough to do 1 inch. I don't think I'm going to need all these at all, and I have 2 different ways that I've done this in the past. One way, okay, I've lost 2 different rolls of twine this week. Okay, I was going to use my linen thread, but it's among the missing. So I have done this with my banner punch board, which is something that I don't think Stampin' Up! Ever sold, but it's made by the same company that makes the, it's made by We Are Memory Keepers, which is the same company that makes the envelope punch board that many of us have and that Stampin' Up! Used to sell. And I've used the large version of it to make banners, large banners, like on a big piece of poster board for people's birthdays or engagement parties, things like that. Or just used it to make banners, not to put on poster board, but to hang on string. And I've started doing it on some cards as well. So what I might do is take a piece of string, all right, this length. Let me find my string and ribbon scissors. And what I do, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can put a little glue on the back of the paper and just stick it over like that, or you can actually take it and fold it over with some glue on it so that it wraps around. And the reason I didn't care if these were different lengths was because, and the other thing you can do is not to do either one of those things and just make it look like it's actually attached to the string. So let's say I wanted to make a card, however I wanted to make it, happy birthday, whatever. I might decide to use these and cut them down. So picture that that one is cut. I might overlap them or overlap, sorry, I'm out of camera frame. I might overlap them or overlap some of them, okay? So on the top, they'll end up looking like they're exactly the same, like they're cut in the same place. But then I could stagger them and overlap them so that they came to different spaces on the card. Okay, and that could be my banner. And then this would be behind it, and it would sort of look like it was hanging from a rope. That's one way of doing it. And then a couple of weeks ago, I think, when I did that one card that I called the Shabby Chic card, I was showing you how I like to tear paper to do things. So I had another scrap of white paper that I cut down to the same width as this paper. And this is just kind of fun. And in this case, I'm going to tear it towards me. And if you remember the last time I told you, when you tear it towards you, you get kind of a rough edge. When you tear it away from you, or the other half of that one has a jagged edge, but it doesn't have that torn paper look. It's really up to you which one you like better. If you don't like either one, if you're using white on white like this, it might be more noticeable if you did it this way, but honestly, it just might not matter at all. All depends on how you're doing it. And what you could do in this case would be to put these pieces of paper on behind your torn paper and glue them in a staggered way. You could still obviously cut your paper down if you wanted to, because if you cut your paper down, that would give you some more scraps to use for something else. I'm looking for my scissors that are usually right in front of me. Yep, I have no idea. Oh, look at that. I put them away where they belong. What a silly thing. All right, so if I wanted to, I could cut some of these and really make them shorter. I could glue them right to this and then glue that over it if I wanted to, and I'll show you where I'm going with that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this now as, you know, as if this is the way I want it to be, as opposed to using the string. All right, so maybe for this one, I'm going to put it very close, if not almost up against the edge. On the top, it doesn't matter quite so much. In fact, I could bring it down, and that would make it a little bit longer. Okay, and I could bring that glue all the way down, but I might choose not to, because I might want to curl the bottom of this a little bit and give it just that little sort of 3D look. Again, if you're putting it in an envelope, that's not going to get seen necessarily. Some of it might survive the mail, but it might not. But let's go ahead and do it anyway, just because it looks kind of pretty. All right, so this one is already quite a bit shorter. So I'm going to put it basically in the same place, but I'm overlapping the one next to it. And then I might come in with a longer one, and I've got this crushed curry pattern. All of these papers are from the Pattern Party paper. All right, now this one's going to come down even lower than that other one, but I'm almost thinking I might want it to come down even lower than that. In fact, I'm not entirely sure that I don't want that piece to come down, but I'm not going to mess with it. All right. Okay, so again, I'm going to overlap, and I think I am going to let this one come down further. You won't see it anyway, the top of it. Let that one come down quite a bit further. I haven't used this pattern at all yet. I've used this one, and like I said, I don't really mind if we use the patterns more than once. Now this one, oh, I forgot to give this one a little curl. This one I'm going to bring up a little bit higher, and it's still overlapped. Some could be overlapped more than others. Again, I don't think that matters, depending on which ones you want to see more of. All right, but no matter how you look at it at this point, I think I've only got room for one more because I didn't overlap these a whole lot. That one's a little crooked, but again, I don't think I can really fix it right now. So I think I'll come in then with this one next. And I'm going to trim this one a little bit, again, because I might be able to use this cut off for something else. It's just another scrap, and we love our scraps, right? Okay, so again, a little glue up at the top. There you go. And we'll overlap it so it comes almost to the edge of that side. And then we've got that done. Now what I'm going to do is glue this down. Oh, you know what? Before I glue, though, I have to follow my own advice. Stamp before gluing. So this is where I'm going to put my sentiment. It's going to be up here. Okay? And I have the In Bloom set, which I wasn't going to buy because I was so in love with the Pretty Perennials, but since that retired, this is kind of the next best thing. I just got this in the mail yesterday, and I wanted to show you real quick just a little trick. So when you have a brand new photopolymer stamp set, there are a lot of people who aren't too keen on the photopolymer stamps because they don't feel that they stamp as well as the red rubber stamps. They feel that they don't hold the ink as well, and all of that could be true, but it's only true for a certain reason, and I'll show you in a second. All right, so they're smoother, they're different, they have a stickiness even to the front of them, which the other stamps don't have. And so what I strongly recommend, I'm deciding what color ink I want to use, sorry. I guess I'll use Poppy Parade. Okay. So I have seen a demonstrator from Australia do this before, Donna Gray, and I've actually sort of discovered it on my own, but by accident. And then when she talked about it, I thought, okay, I'm not crazy. This must be true. So it has that stickiness to it, whether it has some type of a film on it from the factory or whatever, I don't know. So what Donna does is she inks the new photopolymer stamp up. And then she stamps it down, and she does this thing, which you would just never do. All right, you would just never do that. And she does that a couple of times. And in her mind, it's like priming the stamp. Now, maybe this is just something we both made up in our head, and it really isn't true. But I seem to find, and then I clean it, by the way. And then I might do that again, once or twice. Stamp a few times. Okay, and then the other thing that you probably remember has been said about the photopolymer stamps is that because they don't have the cushion that the red rubber has of the foam behind them, it's always a good idea it's always a good idea to have something under them. Now, I use a mouse pad. You can use our Stampin' Pierce mat. You could even use a small stack of papers or a magazine if you didn't have anything else to use. But something underneath it that just gives it the cushion that it doesn't naturally come with because of the fact that it's just photopolymer and doesn't have that foam background. So we're going to ink that up. And I personally almost always, now with the photopolymer stamps, you can look through and you can see that that does look pretty good. You know, it looks like I did a good job of inking it up. But I still like to do a test run. I figure I'm not using that much ink by trying that. And look what I did discover. If you can see that, there's a bit of an arch to that. So this stamp is not on here as straight as it should be. And that is another issue with the photopolymer stamps, and that is that they are far more flexible than the rubber stamps. So a lot of people say that you should just like put it down on your paper or put it down on your stamping table gently and then pick it up with your block, because then it's going to be straight as opposed to like sticking it down to the block. I hope that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to try that again. And now it's not on there as straight as I would like it, so I'm going to have to see if I can straighten it while I'm stamping it. All right, and remember, let it sit there for a second or two. Don't do kind of like a boom boom up and down kind of thing, because you're not, you're not rubber stamping the date on something, and you want to let that ink soak in. So that is really just as close to a perfect image as one could hope to get. Okay, so now I will glue this down. And this is just an alternative to using the string to make it look like a banner. It's just something a little bit different, that's all. Okay, so your banner pieces are coming down from under this torn piece. You may like the way that looks. You might think it would look better with the string. I think it's cute both ways, so you could certainly try it both ways. I think that if I were doing this again, I would pay closer attention to what I was doing in terms of the length of these, because I don't think I would want quite that much white showing. So I think I would have made more of them longer. And as you've seen me do before, I may tear this apart later off camera and do this over again. You just never know. All right, so then we'll put this down on our card base. I keep looking up to see your comments, and of course there aren't any comments because you're not here. Oh dear. All right. And then that goes on like that. And it's a cute card no matter what. The other thing that I could have done would have been to possibly take some other color and very lightly, like maybe after stamping off, do some DIY DSP, something very light under there, so that that wasn't so white. I don't have any real objection to the white. Sometimes I like the look, but for some reason I think I'd be happier if these were coming down just a tad further. So I'm not going to glue this on right now because I may be fixing that later. All right, so that's that one. Well, let's leave it like that. That's that one. And then this one, you could use any one of your punches. So let's see what I have here. I have some scraps. That one looks like an even better scrap. And maybe, let's see, what was that other one? Happy birthday, you're the best. Let's pick a different sentiment, since I don't know if I want to use happy birthday twice. How about, what else is on here? We've got congrats, you're so fancy now. I love that. That implies that someone maybe got a promotion or got a degree of some kind. But it's kind of cute. Congrats, you're so fancy now. Photopolymer stamps do stain, so yes, this does have a little pinkish stain to it. There's almost no way to avoid that. They brought out a product 2 years ago that I think they thought was the solution, but it truly wasn't. It was a decent product, but if you literally didn't clean the stamp with it like a nanosecond after you were done stamping, it really didn't work. Okay, so again, this is a stamp that I haven't used. Now, see, I just noticed that the stamp was on there crooked because I didn't do this. So, I'll make sure you can see what I'm doing. Put the stamp down on your work surface first. Make sure that it's straight, that it's not bent in any way, and then put your block down on top of it. Now, that being said, if you had a reason to think that this image or this sentiment would look cool kind of in an arch for some reason, you could do that. I wouldn't try to bend them too terribly much, but you absolutely can do that. You certainly cannot do that with the red rubber stamp. So that's just something to think about. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Since I've never used this one before, I'm going to ink it up and do this whole little, smushing thing, which is kind of weird, and ink it up again and smush it again. And then I'm going to take my Stampin' Chamois and I'm going to clean it, and then I'm going to do the whole thing again a couple of times. And now I'm looking at it and I'm seeing that it's stamping the way I would want it to. It's looking good. All right, so maybe that helped, maybe it didn't. I just don't know. All right, the other thing that I will tell you about the photopolymer stamps is that as a result of getting handled and getting paper dust on them and whatever other kind of dust you might have, sometimes they stop sticking to the stamp case, in which case just take them out and wash them in some warm, sudsy water. Make sure you protect your drain so that none of your smaller stamps will go down your drain. That one I have not done yet, but I think I came really close once. Okay, so now I've got my mouse pad out here. I'm going to stamp this a little bit. What am I going to do? Stamp it a little bit close to the bottom because I'm going to trim this so that it will fit in our Pick a Banner punch. And I'm going to use that so that it'll sort of follow along with the pattern that I've got going there. Okay, got ink all over my fingers. Let's see. Okay, let's see, what have I got here? I have choices of 1, 3/4, or half. Half is going to be too small. I think 3/4 will work. And if you're using one of the banner punches, any of them, you might really want to, so if you want to put it in where the 3/4 slot is, make it just the tiniest touch, like a 32nd of an inch, not even a 16th of an inch, a tiny touch smaller than that, so that it will slide in there nicely. All right, so let's see. I always get these mixed up and want to put it in the wrong one. Okay, so nope, not that way. This way, yeah, see, it slides right in, but you might still want to flip it over and just make sure that it's straight on the back. Okay. And, well, no matter how I do it, well, unless I go right in the middle, I was going to say no matter how I do it, I'm going to cover up something, but I could go in the center here. That would be okay. And then I think I would want to pop it up, but maybe I'm going to make it just a touch shorter as well. Well, that's more than a touch. That's like half an inch. Half an inch shorter. So that I can put it up against the edge. Okay, either way, got a little smudge or something there. There's always a smudge or something. I don't know. It seems to be totally unavoidable. All right, and I'm going to use my dimensionals. Oh, I have all kinds of little bits and bobs of dimensionals. And since I didn't curl these up, which I really don't think I would on that kind of a pattern or whatever you want to call it, I'll curl up the end of this. So I'll only put 3 of the dimensionals on there. Okay. And I guess we'll put it right in the middle. So we've got congrats, you're so fancy now. And then we've got happy birthday, you really are the best. So 2 different cards using the same punch, using the same stamp set, different designer series paper, and same overall concept, but done a little bit differently each way. So another good way to use scraps, especially if you're cutting paper to a certain height for a project and you are constantly having half-inch strips left over or 1-inch strips left over. And if you didn't have enough designer series paper to make this happen, then get into your cardstock scraps as well, because there could certainly be some solid pieces in between these that would look nicely. Okay, so if you're going to be ordering this month, use this host code. And I did have a customer ask me today when Celebration starts. So if you're planning an order, by all means, do some thinking about your planning. Don't just start ordering things without putting some thought into it. So Celebration starts on August 3rd and goes until September 30th. This is the second celebration this year, and that's the first time that's ever happened. Unfortunately, I can't show you the inside of that catalog yet, but it starts on August 3rd. So if you're planning a purchase, you might want to wait, because for every $50 you spend, you will get a free item, and for every $100 you spend, you can either get two $50 items, or you can get one of what they call a level 2 item. And here is the new July to December mini catalog, which unfortunately, due to everything that's happened in the last year, will not be coming out until August. So this is also the first time that a catalog has launched at the exact same time as Celebration. So that's going to be just a little bit different. But the demonstrator pre-order period has started, and so I have placed an order, and I will be getting that soon, and I'll be able to show you some things from the new catalog. The other thing that I wanted to say to you is that, what was I going to say? I think I lost it. Yeah, I don't know. I lost it. Yeah, so just, if you're planning on placing an order, honestly, it doesn't matter to me when you place your order. So by all means, wait until you can get the most bang for your buck with your order. That just kind of makes sense, okay? Oh, I know what I was going to say. So for my current customers, anyone on my list, anyone who's made a purchase from me, like in the last 6 months, you will be getting both of these catalogs together in the mail from Stampin' Up, because I've put you on my list, but they probably won't send them to you until close to August 3rd. The only good thing about being on that mailing selector list is that you may well get these catalogs a few days before they actually go live online. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So you won't be able to order from them until they go live online, even if you have them, but it gives you a few more days to look through them and see what you might like. All right, so thank you very much for watching. I will take this video and get it over into my other group, because I have no idea what Facebook was doing with that group this morning, and if I don't resolve that problem, I'll have to give them a call, I guess. All right, have a great day, and I will see you again on Friday for Fast and Furious Fun Fold Friday.